r/AskReddit asks Redditors who have met a former crush years later, how did it turn out? My wife's former crush randomly messaged her on Facebook one day. She f***ed him on day 2. She's now my ex-wife. She's jobless living with his mom, and I have the kids. Edit. It would figure that this is my most upvoted post. My kids are 5 and 3, so they don't understand it much, but I'm hoping for the long game, when they realize which parent was really there for them. My son still says hurtful things at times, like I don't want to live with you anymore, I want to live with mommy when he's angry. Thank you everyone for making my week, I really needed to smile. It's my son's first week in kindergarten, and dealing with her through the process has been hell. Found out she was fat and unattractive. Then I realized I was too. Ran into my high school crush, because we were both on the same plane, and seated across the aisle from each other. She's a lesbian now. Did you try to turn her in some crazy scene-full desk scenario? We talked every day in high school for 3 years. 20 years later she didn't remember me. That sucks. It seems that the girls I was chasing in high school, if I see them now it's like I don't see what the big deal was. And then the girls I wasn't chasing, but in retrospect should have been, are all insanely gorgeous, funny, smart. If I had a time machine I'd go back and punch 15-year-old me right in the beanbag. Idiot. I hear ya. I was too cool for band, so I tried to do sports. I sucked. Meanwhile all the band girls were being finger blasted on the bus rides home, while I was awkwardly missing layups on the basketball court. Last time I saw her, when I was 12. I was 35 when I did some research on the internet and found her. I sent her a letter saying hi and was curious on how she was doing. Gave my email address and cell phone number. 3 weeks went by and get a message through Facebook from her saying, I'm fine. Married with twin boys. Don't contact me again. 6 months go by and my parents get a phone call from a guy saying he's her ex-husband and wanted to talk to me. I call him from a friend's cell phone. He tells me that she's in a marriage with an extremely controlling husband and I should be careful. I thank him for letting me know and hang up. I've stayed away ever since. Had a crush on this really pretty girl that was in my study hall, and I always tried to steal glances and check her out and all that, but I would never have dared to ask her out. Anyway, about a year ago I got a text from a number one didn't know and started talking to them. Surprise surprise, it was her. She told me she used to write poems about me in study hall. It hasn't gone any further than that, but we do Snapchat and catch up occasionally. He always said, I want to be a cop. I'll never be a firefighter. Firefighters are dumb, cops are the real men. He became an army firefighter, but instead of being humbled he's still a total douche. Went out for drinks, still fixated on her, was given a chance, got wasted and embarrassed myself by spending so much of the night talking about how much my younger self liked her, extolling her virtues, like it was years ago, mentioned how crazy and awesome it was that I was finally getting my chance. It was sad as shit. I didn't realize how bad I messed up until I sobered up, woke up and immediately knew I would not be given a second opportunity. Saw her reactions and responses from the previous night with a sober eye. Realized the massive amount of I'm going to be polite, but I've made a mistake that was continuously written across her face. Embarrassing as shit. When I was in first year I had the stupidest little girl crush on this guy in my program. And I had no idea how to express it, so I think I thoroughly creeped him out with my staring and pathetic attempts to get him to have coffee with me and such. Anyway, that was 8 years ago, and I've really matured as a person since then. I hadn't even thought of him in years when I ran into him. I was actually excited to find out he worked at a store I was planning to go to. I thought I can finally have a normal conversation with crush. He'll see I'm not a creepy weirdo anymore. Anyway, when I ran into him our conversation went like this. Me, hey, crush, how's it going? Him, good thanks, how are you? Me, good thanks, how are you? And then it just spiraled into awkwardness from there. Guess some people just bring it out of me. Had drinks. Went back to her hotel. Basically did not leave it for 2 days. Netflix marathon. They were just chilling. We started a small thing when we were around 17 years old. Didn't work out cause she was spoiled and I was pretty heartless a whole Fast forward a few relationships for us both, 11 years of growth, and she came back into my life a few months ago. We are dating and life is pretty good now, couldn't ask for anything more. Sometimes it's the right person, but the wrong time. Let's see, met her when I was 13, we totally crushed. Fast forward to when we are both 23. She has a kid from a previous marriage, but it didn't bother me. Got married, she cheated, tried to take me for child support for her daughter. 2/10 would not recommend. I'm sorta currently going through something like this. Dated 2 years ago, she went through a rough patch, and I was young and stupid, so she slammed the door on me. We added each other to Facebook and met recently. It was outstanding. We had really great time and went to her place. I don't know where it goes from now, gotta be patient and receptive, I guess. I came out of a house party to piss, and she was between two parked cars outside blowing two guys. I drunkenly cheered her on, then took a piss on the house. Tried to pull an ultimatum on me in high school, do this or we're over. I called her bluff and that's how our relationship ended. 10-ish years later we are both single, and I visit her on a lark. Turns out she's sleeping with a divorced man, and trying to get him to abandon his wife and daughter. Yeah. Also her apartment was absolutely filthy. I mean, I'm no prize, but I've tried to ruin exactly 0 families. Her last name is very close to mine, so throughout high school our lockers were together, or we'd have seats in class next to each other. She was a cheerleader, incredibly hot and also a cool person. We were friends but nothing close. I ran into her 4 years later. She dropped out of college and is waiting tables now. But she got even hotter. Still a really nice girl though. Edit. Sorry to disappoint guys, but no oral at Taco Bell was involved. People keep asking if I asked her out, and no I didn't. I've had a girlfriend for over 2 years. No, we didn't hook up at a Taco Bell either. She didn't recognize me, or maybe pretended not to, who knows. Either way felt pretty shit. Hadn't seen her in 15 years. Ran into each other online. Decided to meet up for dinner. Married now for 5 years and 1 kid. Sorta similar. I had ugly duckling syndrome in high school. Hit about 16 and boom, I suddenly became attractive to women. But I still had no idea how to interact with women at all. At 22 I started to get minor modeling fill-in gigs. Fast forward to 2010, I found this girl on Facebook I had been in love with since 6th grade. She just went through a divorce, so I spilled my guts. We were always friends, but she didn't know my feelings. I flew home to Sacramento from Dallas just to see her. At least see my friend. Boom, it was like instantaneous love. For 4 days we were in an intense feeling of love. My dreams literally came true. We planned for her to visit Dallas. Bought a ticket. Well, she fooled around on me. That old cheesy ass Dr. Seuss quote, don't cry cause it's over, smile cause it happened. Well, I still smile, because I finally had a legitimate dream come true. Everything I wanted from 8 years old to 18 happened. That's what counts. We've been dating nearly a year. He was my sister's best friend and I crushed on him from 2nd grade to 10th. I'm high-fiving the hell out of my childhood self now. Most amazing relationship I've ever had. She was in my class back in kindergarten, in my class again in 3rd grade. Showed her my boxers, and she was now my girlfriend. Then I discovered she cheated on me with my best friend. I saw him showing her his underwear. Needless to say, I've moved on from that event in my life. But if you are out there, Olivia or Matt, F you. Crushed hard and competed for a really cute girl in college, but when she moved in with him, I closed the door on things. Years later she sought me out on Facebook as apparently for her, I was the one that got away. It led to a tawdry on again, off again, mostly sexual tryst in which we determined the things we did best were fighting, or F***********************************************************************************************************************until about a 4-year break due to mutual animosity. We made up, had an amazing year, and broke up again in a heart-wrenching explosion that stings to this day. Super. We originally met my freshman year of high school, his senior year. 3 years later, we met again. I still had a crush. We became really good friends, then started dating after I graduated. We are now married, and have been for over 2 years. I was in love with him for most of my lower teenage years. He was my best friend, but I broke it off when I found out he'd been talking shit behind my back. I never thought he meant what he said about me, but I do know he was desperate to be liked by people and didn't mind shitting on me to seem cooler to them. Of course the people he talked to told me about it. I sent him a handwritten letter explaining what I'd heard and also that I was still in love with him and couldn't be just friends. We met up when I was 19, about 3 years since we'd last seen each other. He was as charming as he'd always been, and I realized how quickly we fell back into our previous roles. Him being cool but kind and me hanging off his every word. I'm happy we met up because it gave me some closure to realize I didn't feel the same as I did about him and that he was even more of a I still think about him sometimes, but much more soberly than I did when we still hung out. Had a crush on her all through freshman and sophomore year. She kissed me at the end of sophomore year. I failed to reciprocate, basically ran away from her. Extreme social anxiety. I switched schools after disappearing for the summer, not because of the kiss, but when school started again I walked to her school every day for half of the year in hopes of having the balls to make a move. Saw her each day. Failed each day. She obviously got tired of waiting, ended up with another guy. I gave up. Come end of senior year she shows up at my school to see some guy. Saw me, literally jumped into my arms, and forced her phone number on me. Together 7 years come November. I proposed to her around a week ago. Edit. Thank you for the gold, you amazing person. Edit 2. For those who have asked, she said yes. Though the proposal was more of a discussion of the ring I'm trying to have made for her. Social awkwardness FTW. Saw her at the 10-year HS reunion. She was a bit heavier than she'd been in HS, but still attractive. She was there with her Ivy League fiancé. These two facts combined to change my mindset from I wanna bang my HS crush at our reunion to oh well, never mind. At one point, we were being recognized for something, and with all eyes on us, she leaned over and said, I remember what a crush you had on me. You wanted me bad. First, I couldn't really react, given the immediate circumstances. Second, I didn't detect any kind of Taco Bell type invitation in what she'd said. Sorry. In fact, it almost seemed like she was just lording it over me. I mean, she was there with her fiancé, who we'd determined in previous small talk she loved and who was awesome. For some reason, it really pissed me off. I just gave her a blank look, shrugged, and walked away. To this day, I wish I'd had some kind of witty comeback, but that's about my only regret. Haven't seen her since, but I hope she's happy, and blah, blah, blah. Pretty great, actually. Met a girl 7 years ago, she was beautiful and smart, and I was dumb and ugly, not a great match. We hit it off as friends, but nothing more than that. We stopped working together and drifted apart, quite naturally. I then compared every girl I met to her, and didn't meet anyone as good. You might think I put her on a pedestal, however I think I was quite reasonable and realistic. We stayed friends on Facebook and eventually decided to meet up again, because she hadn't seen the new Star Trek film, and I thought that was atrocious. Being a huge Trek nerd, we got on like a house on fire. She knew I had previously liked her. I wasn't exactly trying to hide my feelings at the time, and quickly had a second date. We moved astonishingly fast. She knew me and already trusted me, knowing I was a good person, but I was definitely different. Way more grown up and actually took a bit more care into how I looked. She was a lot different as well, but still made me fall for her hard all over again. We became official after a few days, and since our third date never spent a day apart. Following a few coincidences, we moved in together after a month of dating, and I was able to stream my job from her place better than I could at home 5 months in, and I suddenly had the desire to marry this girl. So in my pajamas I jumped out of bed and asked her to marry me that same summer. No waiting around. So 1 year and 3 days after we started dating we were married, have since bought a flat in London, and are living quite happily. We work really well with each other. We don't get mad at each other because we both know we are on each other's side, and if there is a problem, it wasn't caused by a malicious act from the other. We just keep calmly communicating and do our best to help each other. But went to an underground rave, and then my wife and I tag teamed her. She comes to our holiday gatherings now. Well, that turned out very nicely for you. A little too nicely. Are you insinuating that someone would lie on the internet? Good. We had tacos, then did oral stuff in my car behind Taco Bell, and haven't spoken since.